Hello and welcome to our podcast. I'm Dani, and today Great.com talks with Musiwetu Zwani, the CEO of Rays of Hope. If you haven't heard of it, Rays of Hope works to create sustainable change through psychosocial services, learning, and development programs. If you're new here to this podcast, press subscribe on YouTube or in your podcast app. Hi, Musiwetu, and welcome.
Hello, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me on this wonderful day. I'm in Johannesburg, South Africa, and it is raining today. So it is a wonderful day indeed.
Wow, I'm really hyped to talk to you today, Musiwetu. I super want to learn about the work that you're doing in Alexandra, right? That's the community you're serving. And let's begin with that. Let's talk and learn more about this community. What are the most pressing challenges that they face right now? Where is exactly Alexandra located?
Okay, fantastic. So geographically speaking, Danielle, Alexandra is in Johannesburg on the northern side. It is about 10 kilometers away from the richest mile in Africa, that is Sandton. And it's important to mention that because Sandton is the hub of affluence, incredible and sometimes obscene wealth. And then you have Alexandra, which is a township which is close to Sandton, a township that is characterized by unemployment, poverty, and lots of crime. Historically, townships were created in South Africa under the apartheid regime so that workers would live in those areas and then move towards the city to work and provide their labor. So Alexandra is one of those transit places where a lot of people either temporarily dwell and move on because it's easy to find. It's virtually centrally located, so it's easy to find transportation to different parts of Johannesburg or the Gauteng province. So it is a township that is full of squalor and highly condensed, densely populated. If you think of the area in the Middle East, Gaza, which is known as highly densely populated, Alexandra, densely populated area, lots of challenges, lots of socio-economic ills that you find in that area. That is where we operate as Rays of Hope.
Thank you for that. And it gives us a better understanding of how the community arranges itself, right? Because this is always have an impact on how people are able to develop their lives, their skills, everything else. And now talking about Rays of Hope, could you give us a bit of the story of it, how it all began, when did it all begin, and what really motivated it, how it developed through the years?
Absolutely. Rays of Hope Alexandra started about over 30 years ago. And really the purpose behind it was a group of young people came together and looking at the socioeconomic challenges in the country. One of the areas they felt that they could do something about was in the area of education. So they started a Saturday school program known as Rose Act, whereby they would run these workshops for school kids who go to school Monday to Friday, and then have these academic enrichment programs on a Saturday morning where they help the kids with mathematics and English. That was really the genesis of Rays of Hope. And they did that over many years that it really became quite a solid program in the Alexandra community, where the different kids from the different high schools would come on Saturdays and they would learn, that they would get the supplementary support, and it grew organically. And out of the Saturday school program, different other projects were added, and this thing then became an organization where we then added the vulnerable and the homeless kids were added to the program, and then you had the teenage support programs, and then you had various other programs kept on being added to this thing that then became an organization that was registered as Rays of Hope Alexandra. We still have the Saturday school program known as Rose Act, but we have multiple other programs around that, which then became Rays of Hope and became a registered entity and a fully fledged non-profit organization, which has now been flourishing for over 30 years. Now, what we have currently is a focus on what we call the whole child strategy, where our focus is really, when you look at Bronfenbrenner's ecological systems theory, which says that if you look at one child, you've got to bear in mind that whatever intervention you bring to that child, consider that they do not live in a vacuum. That child has got parents, has got relatives, has got a community they live in, they've got schools, they've got an environment that they exist in. Now, what makes Rays of Hope unique is that we now have a strategy that says, when we look at our beneficiaries, if we are to have a deeper impact, we have to impact the one child plus the environment that the child comes from. So you will notice that in our programs, we have an ECD center, for instance, where children start from the age 2 right up to age 6. Those children, their siblings, their parents are also involved in the programs that we have at Rays of Hope, because we notice that we need to journey with the child's entire environment if we're going to positively impact them, rather than just take a child and provide them and invest in them, and then they go back home and there's issues of gender-based violence, there's issues of drug abuse, alcohol abuse, but we don't do anything about it. So Rays of Hope is involved from an education point of view, but we also supplement that with what we call psychosocial support, where we have a team of social workers who will assess the child and determine what the home environment is like. And when they do a home visit, they then determine what interventions can we bring to add value to this family so that the one child receives a holistic kind of support, and then the journey is with the child's entire environment. And down the line, we are looking at impacting the child holistically as part of the Rays of Hope family and not just as one individual.
I love when you speak about this, because I think it really helps us to get together this concept of, as you said, of a holistic approach. Because thinking, and this is something that we here in the podcast have discussed with other organizations as well, how hard it is to create this sustainable change, right?
Yes.
To give these people something that they will be able to carry on through their lives and pass on for generations, right? So it's really about this, about creating a holistic way to get in touch with their lives, to be part of their lives and understand that change happens in different areas. So it's beautiful to see how you were able to encompass all of this through the development of Rays of Hope. So really, really something. Could you dig into this a little bit more and know about some of the programs that you have? Because you were covering quite a lot of ground, right? You are really approaching families in different perspectives. So what are your highlights of the Rays of Hope programs?
Absolutely, Danielle. I mean, if you think about it, our approach is unique in the sense that a lot of NPOs would either be focusing on the education aspect or the social justice aspect or many other aspects. But when we recognize that the need is to get involved deeper rather than wider, what it means is that, for instance, on a day-to-day basis, you will find that you have a child who is 3 years old is involved in our ECD center where they attend, and then off they go home. And then that child has an older sibling who is in the next level of education, what we call primary school. That child is likely to be in our boys and girls support programs, which happens during the week, where they receive empowerment programs or counseling as depending on the need, and they would be attending that. Now we then, let's say, based on the assessment that our social workers have made on this one child, we pick up that there's an issue of alcoholism at home. We then intervene and try and assist the parents, perhaps if it is an issue of alcoholism. If it is a chronic issue, we have affiliate organizations where we can refer the parent to get assistance, recovery, and all of that. And then we have on a weekend, on a Saturday, what we call parenting workshops, because we recognize that we have to be truly holistic in our approach with these children. We have programs that help enrich the parents in raising their children. They gain skills on a Saturday morning. They attend workshops where they gain skills that have to do with the raising of a child, across different ways, where they learn tips, and we're reinforcing what we've been teaching through the ECD center. And then also, speaking of the analogy of that same family who may have perhaps another older sister who is in the next level of education, which is closer to grade 12, what we call matric, they would be attending our Saturday school academic enrichment program, where they would attend on a Saturday morning and they are learning. We are supplementing what is taught through our education system and making sure that they perform better than the other kids. So ultimately, what you then have is an entire family that is involved throughout the value chain at Rays of Hope. We are interested in that one child in our ECD, but more than as just a name and a tick. But we want to know who is around you at home, what are their issues, how can we assist, so that holistically we are part of this Rays of Hope family that is growing together. And we find that means that we may not take, for instance, 10 children into our programs, but we might end up taking 7, because our focus is no longer to be wide and just achieve numbers, but rather our matrix are around going deeper, so that ultimately we know the life of that one child inside out, and they are part of our family, and we are growing together with that child to ultimately have a deeper impact, in the continent of Africa and possibly the world. So that really is the approach that we have at Rays of Hope, which makes us somewhat unique to most other nonprofits that operate in the space.
And I think this is precious, honestly, because, as I said, if you can do a better job, a better work, focusing on 7 families, let's call it that way. It's not about the numbers, it's about the depth of the impact, right? And there is always this ripple effect, because they're not gonna keep what they have learned for themselves, right? There is no way that they're not gonna share it with the community. And this is something else. How do you stay? I know that you work closely, since you're really focusing on this family's lives, and getting in touch with them. But how do you stay close to the community in the sense of fully understanding what is the need right now? How do you get their opinions into consideration on the work of Rays of Hope? How do you keep them in the loop, truly?
Good question. I would say it's relatively easy to do, in the sense that, number one, we are physically located in the community of Alexandra. Our staff, 40 plus employees who work for us, are predominantly 85-90% of them live in the community of Alexandra. So consequently, we have our finger in the pulse of what's happening in the community of Alexandra. And thirdly, we form part of the networks in the community where through our affiliation with other organizations, we get to know what's happening on the ground, because we cannot do what we do outside of that. So Rays of Hope has got a very solid reputation capital in the Alexandra community. This has been earned over 30 years, and we have become the go-to organization when it comes to dealing with some of these social challenges that people have in the community. So it's very easy for us to have our finger on the pulse of what's going on in the community, because we're not isolated at all. But more than that, Danielle, our approach is not one of bringing a solution or solutions to the community of Alexandra. No, we are part of that community. And consequently, what we do, for it to work, it has to be a partnership. We are partnering with the community of Alexandra in order to achieve sustainable change. We are working together. We're not bringing a solution. We are not the saviors of the Alexandra community, but we are part of the community of Alexandra, making sure that we work on the challenges that the community has in this area around education and psychosocial support. So it's very easy for us to really be plugged in and to continuously tap in and see what it is that the community needs. And because we are clear about our own limitations, that we cannot solve every problem. But even if we solve one problem for one person, that matters. And consequently, we do that, and we do it quite well.
Absolutely. I think this shift of perspective is what helps us see as you see, right? It's not about giving the solution. It's about building a partnership. And that's the shift that makes a difference, I personally believe. And talking about partnerships, I believe that to keep things moving forward, you must need different kinds of partnerships, not just with the community in this perspective that we were just talking, but also to make other connections, right? To keep funding, to keep the engines rolling. So do you have like highlights of partnerships that are help you move forward, or perspectives or ways that organizations that might be listening to us could join Rays of Hope in the sense of being partners in this quest?
Absolutely, Danielle. I would say, when you talk about the nonprofit world, the one big challenge that you generally find is one of funding. And if you look at where the world is at, economically speaking, post-COVID-19, there's a big challenge in terms of getting funding from corporates, from individuals, because organizations have been in recovery mode following COVID-19. It has been difficult to really have sustainable funding, and that's a fact. It is a continuous challenge that we keep on trying in different creative ways. However, here's the thing, and this is very important for those who partner with us. If someone came and gave us R1 million, which is roughly around 100,000 US dollars, that would be awesome. We would be grateful, we would celebrate that, but it would not be enough. And I'll tell you why. For you to give us monetary support without understanding what we do as Rays of Hope means that we have not achieved our mandate, which is to partner with our stakeholders. Because we're dealing with people's lives, we want you to understand who it is that you are impacting, what it is that we are doing today, tomorrow, this week, next month, next year, and partner with us and walk along. Remember, I gave you the analogy, Danielle, of a 2-year-old kid in our ECD program. That 2-year-old kid in 15 to 20 years' time will be a young adult. I need you to understand that $100,000 that you've given, where did it go? How did it impact that child? And who is it that you are impacting, and what are they becoming? So for us, coming along and partnering, whether you have $100,000 or you have $1,000, is not as important as you understanding that we want you to get involved. We're not interested in transactional relationships, which are once off. We want you to be part and parcel of what we are doing, because we're not dealing with commodities. We're dealing with human lives. So partner with us, walk along with us. Let's get into this exciting journey of impacting people's lives and see where that leads us in the future.
I think this perspective that you shared about really being involved and not just donating the money is what really makes something meaningful, I would say, right? It's not just about coming here, dropping it, and leaving. So I would assume that that would also be what is important to individuals also getting involved with Rays of Hope. And with that, what are the best ways to really get involved? How can people get connected with you, with your mission, and help you keep moving forward?
The easiest way, Danielle, is, we live in the information age. So if you go into our website, which is raysofhope.co.za, you can find more detail in terms of what we do and how you can get involved. But just to briefly answer that, we have an initiative we call Sponsor a Child campaign. And what that means is that you can get involved by sponsoring one or no matter how many children that you want to. And depending on, your financial capabilities, and these amounts, whatever they may be, are able to help us to ensure that each child receives the best in terms of our investment, from our resources, from time, to the skills that we have within Rays of Hope, from the education team to, the psychosocial support. But also there's opportunities to volunteer in a number of ways. There's a number of events that we have. So there's quite a huge range of opportunities. But what becomes key, as I hinted earlier, is once you understand perhaps our heartbeat, what it is that we're trying to achieve, because we have an audacious goal that looks as far as 2060, to say what impact, looking back at 2023, 2024, what would we have achieved? And if you want to be part of that journey, and I think it then becomes relatively easy to say, well, if I look at my toolkit, I've got 1, 2, 3. I can get involved in this way. Whether you want to tutor in our Saturday school, whether you want, to mentor some of our kids, whether, you've got the skills to be involved in some of our programs. There's just many ways. But what is key is understanding the heartbeat of Rays of Hope, and then we take it from there.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Muzawetter, for sharing the story of Rays of Hope and everything that you guys stand for. I'm really touched, and I learned so much today. So thank you. Thank you, truly.
Fantastic. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I do hope that it will reach the right kind of people who would be interested in the work that we do, and hopefully they will be touched enough to want to come aboard, and let's get on this exciting journey of taking our young ones into the future that is unknown to all of us.
We will reach the kind hearts.
Fantastic. Thank you.
And to everyone in our audience as well, thank you so much for staying with us for one more episode. And remember, if you enjoyed it, press subscribe on YouTube or on your podcast app, because that shows the algorithms that this is an important conversation and more people can learn about the importance of Rays of Hope. Go to their webpage, learn more about what they do, and help if you can. Bye, and I'll see you in the next episode.